Welcome back to another lunar update for the Divine Counterpart Collective. This will be part two to the Aquarius full moon lunar update for light workers here on the channel. Whoa. So this is a very interesting full moon, and it marks a turning point in the year for counterparts. And is also a very special full moon on the whole for this community. Here's the full moon at the 6th degree of Aquarius. And what's interesting about this full moon is that it speaks both to Juno by conjunction. You'll see she's there at the 3rd degree. The full moon is at the 6th degree of Aquarius. And then we see Jupiter, divine masculine, here at the 6th degree, directly opposite the full moon, but also in opposition to Juno, our divine feminine energy as well, since she's linked to this full moon by conjunction. Because of this, this is the only full moon of 2026 that I've seen to date where Juno and Jupiter are in conversations with the exact same planets across the board. They're making aspects to all of the exact same ones in a way that is rewriting the relationship dynamic between the two of them because it's rewriting their relationship with themselves individually. Both counterpart breaking down who they once were, both counterpart in a process of deconstruction and then rebuilding and reconstruction. And so, because they're simultaneously in a conversation with one another while that's happening, Saturn, or sorry, not Saturn, but Neptune, Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, Chiron, Juno, all of them in conversation together. It is interesting in the way that it's forcing the hand of change for divine counterparts in a major way. It is this year the strongest energy for union, but it's not an energy of smooth sailing at all. It's the energy of mutual understanding, mutual focus on your individual life streams, mirroring change with this opposition, and mutual need for grace and balance, both giving yourself grace and giving the other person grace. The spaciousness needed for each individual life to transform in supportive union on a new timeline is big here. It can't be understated because humanity on the whole is jumping onto a new timeline. And that requires our lives to move through a process of deconstructing and reconstructing. So rather than repeat and reinterpret everything that I said in the Lightworker energy update for divine counterparts, because I would basically just be saying the exact thing I just said in the previous video. I'm going to give you some overall themes that I'm seeing and then leave you to watch that video and apply it to your own connections in the way that it is real and true for you. Because this isn't anytime one or the other divine counterpart speaks to a new or a full moon. Everything that I have said in that lunar update applies more so for that counterpart, whether you hold more divine masculine or more divine feminine. If Jupiter is speaking to the new or the full moon and you hold more divine masculine energy, everything I said in the Lightworker energy update is going to apply more so to your life and how that impacts the way you show up for your counterpart. If Juno is speaking more to the new or the full moon and you hold more divine feminine energy in your connection, that is going to deeply impact how you show up that new or full moon, how you show up for your connection. In this case, it's both of them talking to the full moon, and everything the full moon is getting, both of them are getting it at the exact same time. And so um, it doesn't make sense to reinterpret it for you for this. It makes sense to say, watch that because that's exactly what's happening in your connection right now. That being said, um, a couple of things that do apply more exclusively to this group is the following. Um, this moment is going to be special because the mindsets and changes that you make in your life stream now will have impacts on your connection and the timeline you're on and what you are able to experience later. Negativity will beget negativity. Doubt will beget doubt. Fear will beget fear. Love will beget love. Um, faith will beget faith. Cooperation will beget cooperation. Patience and grace will beget patience and grace. Seeds that are sown here are going to come to harvest in the fullness of time in a way that, yeah, they always do, but not as directly. We're not often in a moment of an absolute reset. We're not often in a moment of a complete deconstruction and then reconstruction of a timeline, but we are now. And that is a function of the fact that both counterparts are having a conversation with Uranus at the same time. And so my guides showed me that aspects from Uranus to either counterparts is one of the things that opens and closes timelines and realities and creates doorways to a completely different lived experience in the 3D. And in some cases, because Uranus can operate at extremes and at speed, it can feel like that happens overnight. Like overnight, we went from no communication to communication. Overnight, we went from being colleagues to not being colleagues. Overnight, we went from being divorced to married, this sort of thing, or remarried. Uranus can cause things to happen at speed and in communication with both counterparts simultaneously. This is opening up new realities, almost like portals that you can just kind of jump into if you so choose. But again, what's happening in your heart and your mind, that's going to dictate what timeline you end up on. And so choices need to get made here. Now, that being said, the trick is going to be to hold your faith and your frequency and your chosen reality while everything not the chosen reality collapses, gets destroyed, and everything aligned to the chosen reality rebuilds around it. And again, Uranus sitting in the sign that deals with consciousness, thought forms, communication. The activating energy for both counterparts is, what story are you telling about yourself, about the other person, about connection, about love, about potential and possibility and love for you? What story are you living into? Getting conscious awareness about this is going to be a key piece of how these timelines shift. And then choosing what consciousness you want to have your reality rebuild around. In order to sustain the correct frequency for wherever you're going next, right? Whether where you want to be at next is married but living in different households, or no communication to communication, connected to actually being in a third dimensional relationship, right? Wherever it is you want to go next, in your connection. Like, we're together, but we are on mission. Maybe you guys want to build a business together or build something together. This is going to take a level of mental fortitude. Now, for some, to hold that mental fortitude while everything around us is collapsing, I have noticed in my clients it's going to take getting to the root of some mental health challenges, which could be a function of dealing with some baseline physical health stuff like gut and digestion. We know now that gut issues or hormonal issues or neurodivergence can really play a significant role in the way a person processes and perceives their reality. Without the correct neurotransmitters in your brain, because you're not developing them in your gut, you were born with a deficiency at birth, you have had, some other sort of issue, and the physical health that impacts the mental health, it's going to be difficult to sustain the fortitude you need to be at the frequency that's going to make your reality what you want it to be, instead of repeating and looping back into a rehearsed reality of learned separation. Okay, so dealing with that for many is on deck. And I saw this earlier this year with Pluto speaking to Juno and the way that Pluto and Juno are speaking. Now Jupiter has come into that same conversation from the sign that deals with sovereignty and personal creativity. There's a lot of dealing with the body, dealing with the third dimension, and dealing with your consciousness about it that needs to reshape to match the reality you're cultivating. So changing in perspective on self, on body, on reality, on other, all of that is going to be the bones that the flesh wraps around for your new version of life with yourself and your counterpart, whatever that is, right? Union, separation, however you identify where you're at, it's what you want, that the desires of your heart that we're now cultivating in the third dimension to live into. And again, the trick is to hold your faith and frequency in your chosen reality while everything not that collapses and everything aligned to that rebuilds around it. Okay. And so doing whatever you need to do internally to sustain a high vibration and prop up your physical health so that your mental health thrives during this is 100% a foundational component of a happy, healthy, thriving partnership. Okay. Now, for now, both counterparts are speaking to Uranus. However, it is Juno, our divine feminine energy here, who's going to be in an extended conversation with Uranus because she's in retrograde now. She started in her conversation with Uranus at the end of February. This extended conversation goes through the end of November. So this is truly the majority of 2026. And Uranus is a timeline creator. As such, the new timelines for divine counterparts are opening through the divine feminine energetic fields first. This means a few things, okay? Your joint divine feminine energy, yours plus theirs together, is deciding what reality you're both going to be living into next. Now, I've mentioned this on this channel many times. We all have both energies. Inner balance and union is the platform for 3D balance and 3D union. And the energies can flip-flop within yourself and in different seasons between you and your counterpart to assist you both with what you're supposed to learn and what you're here to teach. So the deeper work that I have talked about of the Juno retrograde and the Sagittarius full moon video earlier this year, doing that work now is what's creating this space for the connection to solidify if you want union, or deepen if you're already in some format of 3D union. Juno's retrograde here, she's going to back up all the way into Capricorn and then she's going to come back when she stops retrograding. But she continues into Capricorn through September 16th. And then she'll come out of shadow on November 30th. But this entire period is truly about shoring up your foundations for your connection to thrive in the third dimension, not just the fifth dimension or above. We have this season in 2026 of a turning for what was built in the heavens to come down and live and breathe through us here on earth right now. This is truly calling the heavens onto the planet for us to be living, walking, breathing experiences of love as light embodied, or light embodied as love here on the planet. All of the work, all of the healing, all of the trauma work, all of the shadow work, all of the inner child work was for the function of cultivating that baby inside of the fifth dimensional womb, came from the 12th, etc., and beyond, down through 11, 10, 9, and 8. Then we had the descending of that baby that we were building all the way down. 7, 6, fifth dimension is where many people were like, oh, okay, I see it. It's there. It's real. That's the equivalent of the baby showing up on the ultrasound. Like, oh, look, it's a real thing. I can't see it with my eyes, but I can see it with this ultrasound device. I feel it. This connection is there. It is real. The next thing is it comes out of the fourth and into the third dimension where you can see it, touch it, taste it, feel it, whether that's the next version of your connection, right? For you and your counterpart. Some of you have been already together 10 years, 15 years, and you're moving into an evolution of the next version of yourselves together. Some of you are coming into the next version of, okay, out of separation, and then the next step to union, and then the next step to union, and then the next step. But this calling of the heavens onto the earth is the great turning of cycles that 2026 marks for divine counterparts. And this particular conversation of Uranus with Jupiter and Juno opens that up for counterparts in a really significant way. Okay. Now, because of the Plutonian aspects, Pluto's also talking to both of them. Juno by conjunction, also retrograde, Jupiter by opposition. Because of the Plutonian aspects, there is an end to one reality between counterparts and the opening of a new one that you get to choose and build. And many of you are in the creation of that new reality now. The simplest way I can say this is that in order for things have to change in order for things to change. So you want to see something different on the outside, then you want a different kitchen than the one you got. You got to get the one you got, work with the designer and the architect to get the new one. Then you got to take everything that was in there out, right? Then you can put some new stuff in. And this is where we're at, is we're in the middle of the gut renovation for connections. Okay. So it's a really beautiful process of breaking and rebuilding that's happening pretty much at warp speed, thanks to Uranus, and destroying everything that was, thanks to Pluto, in order to facilitate us being able to hold, to anchor, to experience whatever your version of third dimensional union next, or third dimensional union will be here on the planet. The same way, all of the inner architecture that a woman's body has to build a baby, when it's time for that baby to be born, that inner architecture starts to collapse. It goes like all sorts of things happen. The amniotic sac breaks and then the fluid comes out. Although that's been there this whole time, it collapses. And then we have, the loosening of the placenta from the wall that held all of the baby's nutrients in place so that the baby can start to come out, not get nutrients from the placenta, but get it another way. All of these different signs and signals of the closure of the period of being pregnant give way to the beginning of the period of being a parent to a newborn. Okay. And so, yeah, any woman who's been through a birth will tell you, as beautiful as the process can be, I've yet to hear a woman describe it as the birthing process itself as feeling like getting fanned by palm feathers or feathers and palms and eating bonbons and having their feet massaged. It's not comfortable. We can do things to make it less painful, but that doesn't mean it's going like the birth process itself comes with breaking. Things break before they can rebuild. And where this Aquarius full moon has us energetically in connection is what was is breaking so that what's new can be born. Now, there are some women whose birth, like it takes all of an hour. The water breaks, next thing they know, push, push, baby. For some people, it's very quick, very painless. Like it just kind of slips out. It's uncomfortable, but it's over very quickly. And then there are others who will tell you, yeah, I was in labor for 2, 3 days before there was any real movement with that baby. Sometimes the baby comes out breech. Sometimes, the midwife has to turn the baby before the baby can come out, right? There's all sorts of different things that go on in this process, but this is what my guides have really spoken to here with this full moon is that this is the equivalent of the beginning of getting ready for birth, whatever that next step is in your union, right? Like I said, some of you are doing missions, some of you are moving in together, some of you are getting married, some of you are blending families. And some of you are like, oh, right, okay, before any of that can happen, we got to deal with XYZ mental health issue. We got to deal with XYZ grief. We got to deal with, oh, one of us is still married to somebody else, and we're now just discovering that the paperwork isn't fully complete. We got to deal with the paperwork. We got to deal with the fact that somebody else's stuff is still in your house so that I can move into it, etc., etc., etc. Some of you are working way too much, even if your counterpart was available now. Your available bandwidth and time doesn't accommodate nights and evenings watching movies and playing footsies under the covers and long, deep conversations over coffee. You would literally be like, oh my gosh, if I have to stop working to do that, I'm going to actually be in financial trouble, right? So cleaning up the financial pieces so that you have space, time for everything that you have been pregnant with to come into the third dimension is the work of right now. And we are literally right in the beginning of it's time. The baby's ready to come out of the fifth dimension and be where you can see it. It's time. And so there have been many moments of preparation before now where all of these planets have been speaking to Jupiter and Juno and have said, hey, fix your money, fix your health, fix what's going on with your ex, fix your kids, fix your house, finish your degree, deal with the trauma, get some EMDR. There have been many, 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 many moments before now that have been the signals for dealing with deeper, longer term processes to prepare for union. Just like you got 9 months before that baby comes out to get the crib, to get the bottles, to get, whatever it is you think you need, the baby paraphernalia, all of that stuff for the newborn, you have been told this baby was coming. Being unprepared at this point may feel like a bit of a scramble, but you can still do it. It might cause things to be slightly delayed or to have a slightly chaotic birth process and initial months post birth, but it doesn't have to break your union. It is important, though, if you're hearing my words and you're going, yeah. So I never dealt with that debt from my ex that's in my name. And it's messed up my credit score, and I just keep not dealing with it. And I know I want to buy a house or own property with my counterpart. Now's the time you might want to take some action, as uncomfortable as it might be, and as little to nothing as you might feel it has anything to do with your union. Cleaning that up is going to be what sets the stage for exactly the way you want your union to render or show up once it 3D prints out of the fifth dimension. Okay. So something is really important there. I mentioned this over in the Lightworker energy update. There's absolutely grief here, and it's for both counterparts that there is an end of a season, an end of an era going on there because Pluto and Chiron are in communication and also speaking to Juno and Jupiter. The ending of that era is a very specific era of holding a specific heightened consciousness that the divine feminine frequency has been doing for the connection for a long time. I've heard reports of many people feeling like the bliss stage, the euphoric phase, the phase of feeling like I was in constant communication with my guides and getting downloads and dreams all the time. For some of you, it's turned all the way down. For others of you, it's starting to turn all the way up. In either case, end of an era. If you've been hanging out in the fifth dimension for a very long time, you may feel your psychic senses turned down, and that may come with a little bit of grief, so that your third dimensional senses, Chiron and Taurus, can turn all the way up and make you acutely present to the day-to-day needs of a body and a house and a car that is going to literally house your connection, house your union. For others of you, this turning up of all of the psychic stuff is you've already been in the third dimension doing third dimensional stuff for so long. Now this is where you may enter that stage of bliss and start to get that sort of heightened union between your higher consciousness and your third dimensional consciousness at the same time. Both are okay. Neither one is a problem. No one is doing it wrong. We're just about to experience that merge, though, of everything that has been in escrow coming into present time account. So I share that with you to really validate that there's not a right way or a wrong way to be doing this particular moment. It's actually just about following what's aligned for you and aligned for your counterpart. The Neptune and Aries component here is what's bringing some of the deeper spiritual pieces online for some people. Some of you are experiencing this merge between you and your counterpart in the third dimensional union, as I can feel them constantly. Not only can I feel them constantly, but they're so in me that I can no longer distinguish from myself to themselves. I can't find them externally. That's because they're internal now. And that's Neptune speaking to both Jupiter and Juno in this way. I've heard some people say, yeah, where they were there, I don't feel them anymore. Yeah, because they're inside. The oneness merge, the merge is complete. the alarm has gone off and like the timer has gone off and said merge complete, phase locked. And that's great. You're going to now continue to live a very full experience and full life in a way that allows you to um, build out the joy, the pleasure of that union and build a life that can sustain that union. Because you're fully alive, you're fully complete. Others of you, there can be a little bit of avoidance here. So I do just want to speak to that briefly. Neptune, Jupiter can open up avoidance cycles and things such as addiction or using spiritual seeking as a way to not have to deal with physical challenges. If that's happening, just gently pull yourself back. I think that's a really important thing for us to recognize that sometimes we can be in that place of avoiding the third dimension because the higher dimensions just feel so blissy. But if that's the case, I want to encourage you to know there's nothing, take the third dimension as you can take it. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but take the parts that you can take and deal with them as you can deal with them. That's the most compassionate thing that you can do. Okay. So with that said, we talked about Uranus, we talked about Chiron, we talked about Neptune. Um, got some activation here for Juno from Make Make, lots of learning from the way the relationship worked in the past, ready to do something completely different. We also here have this creation goddess energy that is square to both counterparts, locking in this grand cross, this fixed grand cross. It's really inviting us to stand in a new reality, releasing all the elements of the past or the previous reality as we do. So, to better understand what that's going to mean for your individual life streams, I encourage you to watch the Lightworker Energy Update and yeah, share, comment below. Whatever you're growing through may actually be something that provides some validation for other people. This huge breaking and rebuilding is part of a significant change this year, which is why Collapse to Calling, the 4-hour workshop that I have built with Aso Tarot, is hosting a deep dive to power transformation and rebirth. And we're live this weekend, this Saturday, August 1st. If you happen to catch this before then, you do get lifetime access through a recording, but you do need to register quick because there's only 3 days left at the time of me uploading this. These days are going to go by quickly. This 4-hour live session, we're going to teach you a little bit about this destruction and rebirth cycle that we're all moving through collectively. We're going to talk a little bit more about where to locate your power, which I think will be good for this community. If you have been constantly feeling like I'm not in control of my connection, the other person, it's all up to them. That's actually not true. There's a lot of power available for you, especially right now. Timelines are super malleable. And so we're going to talk about that in relationship to your natal Pluto placement in this workshop so that you can understand what creates that power and magnetism in your connection as it emanates from you instead of just waiting for the other person. We're also going to talk about Plutonian cycles. Plutonian cycles are phoenix cycles that start with an ending and end with a rebirth. That is where we are now at the ending process. The rebirth is coming for divine counterparts, but it's important to understand how to not sabotage in the middle of the ending, so that you don't, accidentally nullify the very thing you're trying to birth. We're also going to talk about this from the perspective of the tarot. I know many of you are tarot aficionados. We're going to talk about the Tower and Judgment as they're anchoring parts of the Plutonian cycle. and how to stay grounded as everything is changing. And ultimately, we want to give you a compass for this process so that you're not drowning in these energies because they can be a lot, but instead you're intentionally guiding the energies. We've all seen those pictures and cartoons of the powerful wizard who has one hand up to the sky, catching the lightning, and the other hand wielding the lightning as it comes out of his fingers onto the planet. That's you. You need to know how to direct the lightning. And so this workshop is going to teach you how you can start to do that in a more intentional way. And then at the end, we're going to have some playtime together. I'm going to teach you a bit about chart reading. ASO is going to teach you a little bit about some cards. And then jointly, we're going to have small group time. And this is optional. You don't have to stay for this part where you're going to get to read for some classmates and get read by some classmates. No reading no like skills or experience necessary. We're going to teach you the baseline of what you need to know. Okay. Um, so I think you're going to enjoy this. Everything you need to know is here on the page. We have a lot of frequently asked questions here. If you have any questions, you can come check these out. This would be the best way to get your questions answered quickly. And then we have two bonuses still available. I'm hosting a retrograde workshop and offering a 27-page retrograde guide. Um, the workshop will be in August. If you enroll by tonight on Tuesday, July 28th, you'll be able to get access to that. And then ASO has her question bank that she's offering. If you've ever sat through any of her readings on her channel, you know what makes them so special isn't just how she interprets, it's the quality of questions that she asks of spirit that provides the most empowering information. So I strongly encourage you to enroll ASAP to get access to my retrograde guide and workshop, and her question bank. Link to join will be below. So yeah, I'd love to see you. We'll see you on Saturday. We're so grateful that you're joining us, those of you who've already joined, and we look forward to seeing those of you who are just hearing about it there live with us as well. And of course, if you can't attend, the recording will be available to you. Very powerful time, Star Family. Very potent time, filled with a lot of change, but change doesn't mean that we need to collapse. Change is just the calling into our very next chapter in season. We just want to enter it intentionally. Okay, my loves, thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And I'll see you on our next lunation. Take great care. Bye for now.